Welcome to the Gray Area. It's your man Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate everyone subscribing to my YouTube channel right here at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, also at Kevin Gray Sports, and subscribe to the Gray Area Podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. The Dallas Mavericks are off to an 0-1 start after taking a 106-102 loss to the Phoenix Suns. Yes, Luka Doncic had 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists, but it was a rather pedestrian 32 points as he went 11 of 26 from the field. Not a very efficient 32 points on 26 shots for Luka Doncic. Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Tim Hardaway went a combined 12 of 32 and did not give the kind of help offensively that Luka Doncic needed to overcome a Phoenix Suns basketball team who was pretty good defensively. They got good performances out of Devin Booker, Chris Paul in his first game as a Phoenix Sun, Cam Payne, also Cam Johnson, and what you saw from Mikal Bridges out of Villanova. It's a very good, balanced Phoenix Suns basketball team that defensively is going to be one of the better ones in all of the NBA. And they held the Dallas Mavericks to 45 points in the first half alone. You could tell Luka Doncic is still trying to get his legs under him, not looking like his normal first-team All-NBA self in his first game of the 2020-2021 NBA season, at one point missing 5 layups in the first half alone, and not dealing with the kind of efficiency that you normally see from a Luka Doncic. One thing that did encourage me, though, with respect to his performance against the Phoenix Suns was that he can do this at will to anybody in terms of getting into the paint. There was time and time again where he willed himself into the paint, using his strength and 6'7", 230-pound frame to overmatch defenders constantly against the Phoenix Suns. And that's going to be all day for Luka Doncic with respect to the strength of his game, getting to the bucket. But as you saw, this is another player who still needs to continue to improve his free throw shooting and also his shot selection. As the game got into the waning moments, you saw what reared its ugly head again in terms of the clutch time performance of the Dallas Mavericks, a team last year that was extremely poor in clutch time situations. That came back up again against the Phoenix Suns. Luka Doncic taking an ill-advised three-pointer to try and tie the game when he didn't necessarily have to on a step-back 30-footer that did not go down, subsequently leading to a Devin Booker jump shot that basically sealed it at 105-100. So when you look at the Dallas Mavericks off to an 0-1 start, there are several takeaways from this basketball game. One, from Luka Doncic, which you'll hear from here in just a second, was his idea of his shot selection, saying, quote-unquote, my bad. In fact, here is Luka Doncic talking about his shot selection and what it means for him to have to try and improve that at the end of basketball games.
Take the pain for sure. That was my bad. I gotta stop taking these very bad shots. It wasn't just the last one, but it was a couple of them. It's not good for me. It's not good for the team, and I gotta change it. And I think that one, we were taking the pain. I think really good in the second half, and we should just keep doing that.
So despite the fact that Luka Doncic really understands the idea of what he needs to do, it's still concerning that he continues to display the poor shot selection at the end of basketball games that has not led to clutch time wins for this team. You say Jalen Brunson coming back from his shoulder injury played well in the fourth quarter, had 12 points, was able to help keep the Dallas Mavericks in it with some of his shot making and some of his creativity to allow the Mavericks to stay in it late in the basketball game. That is true. But at the same time, what we saw against the Phoenix Suns was the idea that this team doesn't have the kind of shot creator and maker other than Luka Doncic needed to go get a bucket when Luka Doncic is struggling to get one himself in the fourth quarter. His ability to get himself to the free throw line is obviously key for him as he continues to get easy buckets, especially when he is struggling from the outside in terms of his three-point shot. Another concerning thing for me is that when you look at the center position for this Dallas Mavericks team, I know Dwight Powell is coming off a torn Achilles, is one of the best rim runners in all of the NBA. There were certain points in the game against the Phoenix Suns where he did not finish the way that he's normally incapable of doing so. Which brings me to Willie Cauley-Stein, who was a plus 14 in his 6 minutes off the bench for the Dallas Mavericks. There may need to be a switch at the starting center position with respect to Dwight Powell and Willie Cauley-Stein. Willie Cauley-Stein, who's continued to work on his three-point shooting, is an athletic rim runner and defender who provides a measure of athleticism that Dwight Powell may not necessarily be able to provide at this point. And when you start looking at the floor spacing from the Dallas Mavericks also, when they're not hitting shots, teams are going to key in on Luka Doncic. And you cannot have performances from Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Richardson, and Tim Hardaway Jr. going a combined 12 of 32 and think this team can win basketball games when they're not hitting shots. So this is where Kristaps Porzingis comes in terms of what you miss from him, obviously still dealing with his meniscus, and how the Mavericks are going to have to manage this in terms of their big man minutes between Dwight Powell and Willie Cauley-Stein. There were several points in that game against the Phoenix Suns where Dwight Powell caught the ball after Luka Doncic was able to draw the defense in. And while normally Kristaps Porzingis is the one out there catching the ball and burying it from the three-point line, Dwight Powell, yes, in one specific occasion, was able to drive the ball to the basket and get a layup, but that is where Kristaps Porzingis comes in and bends the math for you. A guy at 7'3" who can shoot the ball from the three-point line and create pressure on defenses with his ability to shoot, but also have the dribble drive recognition to make plays for his teammates and for himself also. Dwight Powell doesn't do those things. Willie Cauley-Stein doesn't necessarily do those things either. So when you're talking about the offensive efficiency that's going to have to be managed for this team that, yes, will be better defensively as you saw against the Phoenix Suns, but at the same time, offensively, they're going to have to slog through some things just like they did in their first game against the Phoenix Suns, because that was not a very inspiring performance, especially in the first half. And when Luka Doncic is your only shot maker and creator, especially throughout a ball game when guys aren't hitting shots, it doesn't matter who's on the floor with Luka Doncic if they're not going to hit three-point shots and bury open jumpers the way that they need to create the kind of floor spacing so that Luka Doncic isn't getting the kind of calls that he normally gets, especially when you start thinking about Luka Doncic and how much complaining he continues to do toward the referees. And that was another concerning part of when you think about the breakdown of their first game against the Phoenix Suns. A lot of the same things that reared their ugly head for the Dallas Mavericks, especially this past season, showed up a lot in this game against the Phoenix Suns. The inability for other guys to help out Luka Doncic during clutch time situations, the Mavericks struggling overall in clutch time by not getting good shot selection, Luka Doncic continuing to complain to the referees about calls that he is or is not getting. And then, obviously, at the center position, what that looks like in terms of the offensive creativity that you're missing in terms of Kristaps Porzingis. Now, I know a lot of that obviously has to do with his injury, him not being available. But when you get the lack of production from your wing players, Josh Richardson, who was really playing well in the preseason, didn't play all that great, although he did have that whoop-de-doo spinning shot that was spun 100 times around the rim before it actually went down. The one real highlight, other than the Luka Doncic behind-the-back pass around DeAndre Ayton. There wasn't a lot to inspire in terms of performance from the Dallas Mavericks on opening night. But at the same time, it is what it is. It's opening night. And while the Dallas Mavericks, who were the best in terms of offensive efficiency a year ago, still have some things to work out in terms of their offensive kinks, Luka Doncic is still working himself into shape. Role players such as Josh Richardson continuing to get comfortable, especially in late game situations. This team still has the makings of finding themselves improving. But at the same time, don't get concerned if this team starts off 0-3 after taking losses to the Phoenix Suns and potentially to the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers in their first three games. When you're playing two of the top three teams in the Western Conference in your first three games, it's not unexpected to think that you would start off 0-3. But what was concerning is that some of the same things that we saw from this team last year showed up again against a Phoenix Suns team that, yes, is up and coming. It has some veterans on its team, such as Jay Crowder and Chris Paul being added to this team. But at the same time, you would have thought, after the learning lessons that they had against the Los Angeles Clippers in their first-round exit and learning about how to mature as a basketball team, that those things would have fixed themselves, especially in a game against a young, up-and-coming team in the Phoenix Suns. That didn't necessarily happen in game number one. And Jalen, Brunson, Rick Carlisle, to a man and others, speaking after the game, said that it's something that they have to get right and they have to get fixed.
We got it tied once or twice, and then, had an opportunity or two to get the lead and couldn't do it. And so that's, that's disappointing because I thought we really fought hard during those stretches. But, it's going to come down, I should say winning and losing in the Western Conference this year is going to come down to concentration on details. And, there's just a few things we've just got to do better.
Especially when you start thinking about teams like quick turnarounds in the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. So, for the Dallas Mavericks, it was a slogging opening night performance in a game where the Phoenix Suns played well defensively, got key contributions from their role players, and also they've got a star in Devin Booker who can light you up from anywhere on the floor. But also on the other side, conversely for the Mavericks, a team that slogged through a first-half performance scoring only 45 points, questionable shot selection by your man Luka Doncic at the end of basketball games, not being able to secure rebounds when they had a chance to after Devin Booker missed a three, and you had a chance to actually put yourself in a position to get the rebound because once you are able to lock down a team defensively, the most important thing to do is to secure the basketball. And they did not do that when they needed to have it, and it cost them an opportunity to try and win this basketball game. Plus, you did not have the best shooting performance from this basketball team, especially from guys who need to bury shots in order to help Luka Doncic out, despite the fact that he had 32 points. So while there are some concerning elements, at the same time, there's still a team working out the kinks, and it looked more like a fourth preseason game more than anything else in terms of a first regular season game for the Dallas Mavericks. But there is still time, and it's just the first game of the season. But at the same time, there are takeaways, positively and negatively, especially with Willie Cauley-Stein and his positive play, Jalen Brunson in terms of his fourth quarter play, but concerning elements of the same ones that reared their ugly head as they did last year. We will see how the Dallas Mavericks bounce back after their 0-1 start as they take on the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers in their next two games, and we will get a better indication of how this team continues to bounce back. And if so, we'll be encouraged how the Dallas Mavericks move forward from here. But for now, the Mavs 0-1. Don't panic. Don't hit the panic button right now. We'll see how this team continues to work through themselves and continues to mature, especially as Luka Doncic improves his free throw shooting and shot-making selection at the end of basketball games. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, also at Kevin Gray Sports. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. Peace.